Okay, let's be real for a second. Why do so many people quit learning Japanese? It's almost always the same story. It just feels like this massive uphill battle with very little reward. You pour in weeks of studying and you still can't follow a basic conversation. It's frustrating. But what if you could completely flip that on its head? What if you could make progress so fast and so easily that it honestly feels like you found a cheat code? Well, that's what we're going to break down.
Look, you've got two paths. There's the traditional way. We've all seen it. It's years of just grinding through textbooks, getting more and more frustrated, and then, most people just give up. But then there's this other way, a way that's all about making quick, noticeable progress, a way that feels so effective you'll feel like you have an unfair advantage, and that's the path we're taking today.
So, what's the big secret? What's this illegal method? Well, it's not some magic bullet. The whole idea, the entire premise, is to change your approach so that studying itself feels almost effortless. See, when something feels easy, you build momentum. When you have momentum, you stay consistent. And that consistency, that's where the real, lasting progress happens.
And this is a huge mental shift right here. Your primary goal isn't just to study Japanese. It's to build a system that prevents you from quitting. The real enemy isn't complex grammar or thousands of kanji, it's that little voice in your head that says, this is too hard, let's just stop. This whole method is designed to shut that voice up for good.
All right, before we get to all the cool productivity hacks, we have to lay down the law about one thing you absolutely positively cannot skip, and that's the foundation. Seriously, if you try to build a house on sand, what happens? It's going to collapse. Language learning is exactly the same.
And look, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's a rule. Every single person who has become fluent in Japanese as a second language started here. They built a solid base before they did anything else. It is completely 100% non-negotiable.
So here's what that roadmap actually looks like, and pay close attention to the order. Step 1, you learn Hiragana and Katakana. No way around it. Step 2, you build a solid core of the most common vocabulary and the most important grammar points. And then, and only then, do you move to Step 3, Immersion. So many people try to jump right into watching anime or reading manga and they get totally overwhelmed. That's why they quit. You have to build the foundation first.
Okay, so you've got your foundation. Now it's time to get smart. It's time to talk about how you can get the absolute best results from the least amount of effort. We're going to do this by using two incredibly powerful productivity principles.
First up, you've probably heard of this, the 80-20 rule. It's sometimes called the Pareto principle, but the idea is super simple. In just about anything you do, a tiny handful of your actions, about 20%, are responsible for the vast majority, like 80% of your results. This chart makes it so clear, right? That little 20% slice of high-impact study, that's where all the magic is. Everything else is mostly just busy work that doesn't move the needle. So the most important question you have to ask yourself is, what is my 20%? What are the few things I'm doing that are actually giving me the biggest bang for my buck? So what does that 20% actually look like? Well, for one, it's focusing on your weak spots instead of just reviewing what you already know. It's making sure your study materials match your goals. You want to understand anime? Then study with anime. And crucially, it's finding that learning sweet spot, content where you understand maybe 80 or 90%. That's where you're challenged but not overwhelmed. That's smart studying.
Now, the second piece of this puzzle is something called Parkinson's Law. And trust me, you've lived this a million times. If you tell yourself you have all Saturday to clean your apartment, it somehow takes all day, right? But if your friends are coming over in an hour, you get it done in 45 minutes flat. Work just expands to fill whatever time you give it.
And this is exactly why those long marathon study sessions just don't work. If you block out an hour, you're just inviting yourself to get distracted and check your phone. But if you set a timer for a super focused, intense 20-minute sprint, there's no time for distraction. That short deadline creates urgency, and it absolutely demolishes procrastination. All right, now for the really fun stuff. Let's talk about a few simple mind tricks, some psychological jujitsu you can use to make studying feel automatic. This is all about learning to work with your brain's weird little tendencies instead of constantly fighting against them. You know that feeling when a TV show ends on a massive cliffhanger and you just have to watch the next episode? Well, there's a name for that. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains are basically hardwired to crave closure. We hate leaving things unfinished, and we can totally use that to our advantage. So how do you use it? It's ridiculously simple. Just start. That's the whole hack.
Don't worry about studying for an hour. Just tell yourself you're going to open your flashcard app. That's it. Or maybe you'll do just one flashcard. That tiny little action opens a loop in your brain, and that need for closure will kick in and pull you the rest of the way. You trick yourself into starting, and your brain does the heavy lifting.
Next hack, you've got to focus on active learning over passive learning. You see, passively reading a chapter or just listening to something is okay, but it doesn't really cement the information in your brain. Active learning, where you're forcing your brain to recall information, like with flashcards or you're writing your own sentences, that's what actually builds those strong, long-lasting connections.
And hey, who says studying has to be a total grind? You can turn it into a game. Try this. It's called the Doro technique. You study with intense focus for, say, 45 minutes. Then you reward yourself with one 20-minute episode of anime, but without the English subtitles. That way, your break is still fun, but it's also a mini immersion session. It's a total win-win.
And finally, you have to figure out your personal genius time. Are you a morning person who's sharpest at 7 a.m., or are you a night owl who gets his second wind after dinner? Pay attention to your body's natural rhythms. Fun fact, some research suggests that learning a language right before you go to sleep can actually help with memory consolidation. So experiment, find your peak window, and protect it.
Now, all these hacks and techniques are awesome, but they won't mean a thing if you don't have the right long-term mindset. To really go the distance and reach fluency, you got to stop thinking like a sprinter and start thinking like a champion preparing for a long season.
Think about a professional sports team. Do you think they win every single practice game? Of course not. They have bad days, they get tired, they mess up, but that doesn't stop them from becoming champions. What makes them champions is showing up consistently, day in and day out, over the long haul. That's the mindset you need.
So you missed a day of your flashcards. Who cares? You didn't finish that grammar chapter you wanted to? It doesn't matter. Those are tiny little losses. You have to learn to forget them and focus on the big picture. The only thing that truly matters is that you keep showing up. Consistency will always be perfection.
So let's bring this all home and make it super practical. I want you to forget about everything else for just a minute and ask yourself this one simple question. Thinking about your goals and your weak spots, what is the single most important, high-impact activity you can do this week? What is your 20% focus? Figure that out and just go do that.